In the vast expanse of space, Earth had perfected the art of deception. From the outside, humanity appeared to be nothing more than a developing civilization, barely able to reach their own moon. Their radio signals carried mundane entertainment, their satellites seemed primitive, and their space stations looked cobbled together with outdated technology. It was exactly as they intended. The truth lay hidden beneath this carefully crafted facade. Deep within the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, director Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the Milky Way. Hundreds of points of light pulsed with different colors, each representing a species under Earth's protection. This was the true face of humanity. Not conquerors or warriors, but preservationists on a galactic scale. "Director, we have a situation in the Carina sector," announced Marcus Rodriguez, her chief operations officer. His dark eyes reflected the concern in his voice as he manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a cluster of stars. "The Vex migration has begun early this cycle." Sarah's expression remained calm, but her fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on the edge of the control panel. The Vex were one of their most precious charges, crystalline beings that traveled through space in massive swarms, following complex mathematical patterns that took centuries to complete. Their early movement could only mean one thing: something had disrupted their natural cycle. "Show me the interference patterns," she commanded. The hologram shifted, revealing waves of energy emanating from a nearby system. "Damn it. Commercial development." "Worse," Marcus replied, pulling up another overlay. "The hegemony is establishing a new hyperspace corridor right through their migration path. They're claiming they didn't detect any sentient life in the sector." The galactic hegemony. A coalition of spacefaring races who viewed themselves as the pinnacle of civilization. They were efficient, expansionist, and completely oblivious to the deeper patterns of life in the galaxy. Like so many advanced species, they recognized only certain forms of intelligence, dismissing anything that didn't match their narrow criteria. "How long until the Vex reach the construction zone?" Sarah asked, already calculating potential solutions. 36 hours at their current velocity. The hegemony's construction fleet is operating with full automation. They don't even have living crews to negotiate with. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Perfect. That makes this simpler." She opened a secure channel to their field operations division. "This is Director Chen. Initiate protocol Shepard. Authorization Echo 79 Delta." Throughout the facility, hidden machinery hummed to life. In orbital warehouses disguised as defunct satellites, advanced ships began powering up their systems. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth was about to experience a series of peculiar electromagnetic storms that would disrupt communications for several hours, a common occurrence for such a primitive world. "Marcus, I want you coordinating with the field teams. We'll need to modify the Vex's path without making it obvious we're helping them. Deploy the resonance buoys along Vector 735. Let's give them a natural gravitational anomaly to follow." As her staff sprang into action, Sarah reflected on the irony of their situation. Humanity had achieved technological advancement far beyond what most species imagined possible, but their greatest achievement was appearing to have achieved very little at all. They had learned long ago that the best way to protect the galaxy's treasures was to be overlooked by those who would exploit them. The preservation program had begun almost by accident, 2 centuries earlier. When humans first developed faster-than-light travel, they discovered something that had escaped the notice of older spacefaring races. The galaxy was full of life that didn't fit conventional definitions of intelligence. Crystalline beings that fought in centuries-long mathematically precise migrations. Plasma clouds that carried memories in their magnetic fields. Ancient spaceborne organisms that shepherded asteroids like cosmic cattle. Rather than announce their discoveries to a galaxy that had repeatedly shown its disregard for such wonders, humanity made a choice. They would become the silent guardians, protecting these unique forms of life while maintaining the illusion of their own cosmic insignificance. "Director," Marcus called out, interrupting her thoughts. The first wave of ships is in position. We're detecting increased activity from the hegemony construction fleet. Sarah nodded, studying the tactical display. Their ships, officially non-existent, were now stationed at key points around the Vex migration route. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, capable of manipulating gravitational fields with incredible precision while remaining completely undetectable to conventional sensors. "Begin Phase 1, she ordered. "Let's show our crystalline friends a better path home." As the operation unfolded, Sarah thought about all the species that had dismissed Earth as an unremarkable world inhabited by primitive beings who could barely reach their own satellite. None of them ever suspected that humanity's apparent lack of progress was their most elaborate achievement, a cosmic-scale conservation program hidden behind a mask of mediocrity. The holographic display showed the first gravitational pulses reaching the Vex swarm. Slowly, majestically, the crystalline beings began to alter their course, following what they perceived as natural gravitational eddies in space. Their new trajectory would take them safely around the hegemony's construction zone, preserving both their migration pattern and their secret existence. "The hegemony ships are maintaining their course," Marcus reported. "They haven't detected anything unusual." "Good," Sarah replied. "Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to make sure nobody knows there was a problem to solve." She watched as the massive swarm of crystalline beings adjusted their course, their faceted bodies catching and refracting starlight in complex patterns that her scientists were still working to decode. This was humanity's true legacy, not conquest or domination, but preservation. They had become the silent shepherds of the galaxy's forgotten wonders, protecting the incredible diversity of cosmic life from the homogenizing force of conventional civilization. And they did it all while being dismissed as barely worth noting in galactic affairs. As the Vex swarm disappeared into the darkness of space, following their new course, Sarah allowed herself a moment of pride. Somewhere out there, other human teams were engaged in similar operations, preserving other wonders that the galaxy's dominant civilizations would never even know existed. It wasn't glory or power that drove them, but something far more profound: the understanding that the universe's greatest treasures were often the ones that went unnoticed. "Operation complete," Director Marcus announced. "The Vex are safely on their new trajectory, and the hegemony remains unaware of their existence." "Excellent work, everyone," Sarah responded. "Let's pack up before that electromagnetic storm clears. We wouldn't want anyone to notice Earth doing anything remarkable, would we?" Around her, the facility began powering down its more exotic systems, returning to its disguise as an abandoned military installation. Soon, the only evidence of their intervention would be a slight gravitational anomaly that would be dismissed as a natural phenomenon by the hegemony sensors. Just another day of being unremarkable, Sarah thought with satisfaction. And in that unremarkable status lay humanity's greatest achievement, becoming the hidden guardians of all that made the galaxy truly extraordinary. The warning signs came not as a bang, but as a whisper. Deep in the monitoring center of Earth's hidden facility, Dr. Marcus Rodriguez watched as dozens of holographic alerts flickered to life simultaneously. Each signal represented a different protected species showing signs of distress, and the pattern was too precise to be natural. "Director Chen," he called, his voice tight with concern. "You need to see this." Sarah Chen arrived moments later, her usual composed demeanor shadowed by the urgency in Marcus's tone. The holographic display told a story that made her blood run cold. The hegemony wasn't just building one hyperspace corridor anymore. They were implementing a massive infrastructure project that would span nearly a quarter of the galaxy. "They're calling it the Unity Network," Marcus explained, pulling up the intercepted plans. "Hundreds of interconnected hyperspace corridors, all operating on the same frequency. It's meant to revolutionize galactic transport." Sarah studied the projected paths with growing horror. "And in the process, it will disrupt nearly every major migration route, breeding ground, and sanctuary we protect. The energy emissions alone would be catastrophic for the quantum-sensitive species. The scale of the threat was unprecedented. The Vex migration had been just the beginning. A test run for something far more ambitious. The Unity network would create a web of artificial passages through space, each one generating ripples of hyperspace energy that would interfere with the natural patterns of countless species. How many species are we looking at? Sarah asked, though she dreaded the answer. Marcus pulled up the impact assessment. Direct threat to 37 major species groups, with potential secondary effects on over 200 others. The crystalline migrations would be completely disrupted. The stellar nurseries in the Carina sector would collapse. The memory clouds would be torn apart by the energy fluctuations. Centuries of careful preservation work, undone by a single infrastructure project. The irony was that the hegemony had no idea what they were about to destroy. To them, these spaces were empty, devoid of anything they recognized as life. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. For 200 years, humanity had maintained their facade of mediocrity to protect the galaxy's hidden wonders. But now, that same facade threatened to become their greatest liability. How could they prevent this catastrophe without revealing themselves? "Show me the construction timeline," she ordered. The display shifted, showing the planned phases of the Unity network. The hegemony was moving with characteristic efficiency. The first major phase would begin within weeks, with the entire network scheduled for completion within 5 years. "We can't stop this with our usual methods," Marcus said, voicing what they both knew. "Subtle course corrections and manufactured natural phenomena won't be enough. Not for something this big." Sarah walked slowly around the holographic display, studying it from every angle. The hegemony had chosen their corridors well, from their perspective. They avoided all major populated systems, staying clear of recognized civilizations. They had no way of knowing that their empty space was anything but empty. "Get me the full council," she ordered. "Emergency session. This goes beyond standard protocols." Within minutes, the chamber filled with holographic representations of Earth's Preservation Council, 12 individuals representing different aspects of their hidden program. Some joined from other facilities, others from ships disguised as debris floating in distant systems. All wore the same grave expression as they absorbed the information before them. Admiral James Chen, Sarah's brother and head of their covert fleet, spoke first. "If we reveal ourselves now, after centuries of deception, we risk more than just this project. The hegemony would see us as a threat, a primitive species that somehow achieved technological superiority without their notice. And if we don't reveal ourselves," countered Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their xenobiologist, "we risk losing species that took billions of years to evolve. Some of them are the last of their kind in the known galaxy." The debate raged on, but Sarah found her attention drawn to a detail in the construction plans. The hegemony's efficiency was also their weakness. They had automated nearly the entire process, relying on sophisticated machinery rather than living crews. "Marcus," she interrupted the ongoing discussion, "show me the network's maintenance protocols." The plans expanded, revealing the complex systems designed to keep the corridors stable. The hegemony had planned for every contingency: solar flares, cosmic radiation, even the occasional spatial anomaly. But they hadn't planned for what they couldn't see. "The Vex," Sarah said softly, an idea forming. "They're not the only crystalline entities we protect, are they?" Dr. Tanaka's eyes widened as she caught Sarah's meaning. "The lattice dancers in the Carina sector. They're similar in composition, but far more responsive to gravitational manipulation. And they're already in the path of the first construction phase." For the first time since the crisis began, Sarah allowed herself to smile. "Then perhaps it's time we arranged an introduction. Not between the hegemony and humanity, but between the hegemony and the kinds of life they've been ignoring." Understanding dawned on the council members' faces. They couldn't stop the Unity network without revealing themselves, but they could make its construction impossible by working through the very beings they'd sworn to protect. "It's risky," Admiral Chen warned. "If we actively direct any of our protected species, We're crossing a line we've never crossed before. We're well past simple preservation now, Sarah replied. These beings have as much right to this galaxy as any spacefaring race. Perhaps it's time they had a say in how it's developed. The plan came together quickly. They would use their gravitational technology not to hide the lattice dancers, but to help them communicate, to make their presence impossible to ignore. The hegemony would have to acknowledge these new forms of life, even if they never discovered humanity's role in revealing them. As the council dispersed to begin preparations, Marcus approached Sarah privately. "Director, if this works, it changes everything. We'll be moving from preservation to active cooperation with our charges." Sarah nodded, watching the holographic stars spin slowly above them. Maybe that's exactly what this galaxy needs. Not unity through uniformity, but harmony through diversity. She turned to face her old friend. "Prepare the field teams. It's time to wake up the lattice dancers." In the depths of space, humanity's hidden ships began to move. Their greatest achievement had been remaining unnoticed for centuries. Now, their greatest challenge would be helping others get noticed instead. The age of simple preservation was ending. The era of cooperation was about to begin. The Carina sector blazed with activity as the hegemony's construction fleet arrived in force. Massive automated ships deployed swarms of drones, beginning the precise dance that would tear open the fabric of space to create their hyperspace corridors. From the observation deck of her cloaked vessel, Sarah Chen watched the operation with mixed emotions. "Construction phase initiating," Marcus reported from his station. "The hegemony's quantum anchors are powering up. They'll begin stabilizing the corridor space in approximately 17 minutes. Sarah nodded, her attention fixed on a different set of readings. Throughout the sector, carefully hidden sensors tracked the movement of the lattice dancers, crystalline beings that existed in a state between normal space and something else entirely. Humanity had spent decades studying them, learning their patterns, their songs, their way of perceiving reality. Now, for the first time, they would attempt to do more than just observe. "Status of the resonance network?" she asked. "All buoys are in position and calibrated," Marcus confirmed. "Dr. Tanaka says the frequency matches the dancer's natural harmonics perfectly. We're ready to begin." Sarah took a deep breath. "Initiate the awakening sequence." Throughout the sector, hidden human vessels activated their gravitational generators in perfect synchronization. The space between stars began to vibrate with carefully calculated frequencies, not random noise, but a complex symphony of gravitational waves that mimicked the natural communications of the lattice dancers. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The hegemony's construction continued unabated, their sensors detecting nothing unusual about the supposedly empty sector. Then, gradually, points of light began to appear in the void. The lattice dancers were responding to the call. "They're emerging from their dormant state." Dr. Tanaka's voice came over the comm, excitement barely contained. "The resonance is working better than we expected. They're not just awakening. They're synchronizing." The lattice dancers were beautiful beyond description. Their crystalline forms shifted through dimensions humans could barely perceive, each movement creating ripples in the quantum fabric of space itself. As more of them emerged, they began to move in patterns that even humanity's centuries of observation hadn't revealed. "Hegemony fleet is detecting the anomalies," Marcus reported. "They're pausing construction to investigate." Sarah watched as the automated construction drones halted their work. The hegemony sensors would be working overtime, trying to categorize what they were seeing. These weren't simple space crystals or random phenomena. The dancers' movements were too precise, too coordinated to be dismissed as natural occurrences. "They're sending out probe drones," Marcus continued. "Standard first contact protocols. But this wouldn't be like any first contact the hegemony had experienced before. The lattice dancers existed partially in normal space and partially in the quantum realm that the Unity network would disrupt. As the probes approached, The dancers responded not with aggression or fear, but with something far more profound. They began to dance. Their movements created interference patterns in the very space the hegemony intended to use for their corridors. Each shift and turn demonstrated with elegant precision how their existence was woven into the fabric of this sector. The probe's sensors would be recording it all, showing the hegemony something they had never considered, life that existed in the spaces between their conventional definitions. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, Marcus announced. The hegemony is sending in their biological research vessels. They're not following the automated construction protocols anymore. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The hegemony might be rigid in their thinking, but they weren't stupid. When presented with clear evidence of something unprecedented, they would study it, and study would lead to understanding. But then something unexpected happened. The lattice dancers, awakened and synchronized by humanity's careful orchestration, began to change their patterns. They weren't just demonstrating their existence, they were actively reaching out to the hegemony ships. Director, Dr. Tanaka's voice was filled with wonder. They're attempting communication. The patterns they're creating. They're not just showing spatial occupation. They're trying to establish a dialogue. This wasn't part of the plan. Humanity had intended to reveal the dancers' existence to force the hegemony to alter their construction plans. Instead, they were witnessing the birth of something entirely new, genuine first contact between a spacefaring civilization and a species that challenged every definition of life they held. More dancers are arriving, Marcus reported. They're coming from all over the sector, forming into larger synchronized groups. The patterns are becoming more complex. Sarah watched as the scene unfolded. The hegemony ships had completely suspended their construction operations, all attention now focused on the extraordinary display before them. The dancers moved in ever more intricate patterns, their crystalline forms creating mathematical symphonies in space. Dr. Tanaka, Sarah called, "Are you recording all of this?" "Every moment," came the reply. "But Director, there's something else. The patterns they're creating, they're not just communication attempts. They're showing alternative spatial configurations. I think they're offering to help design better hyperspace corridors." Sarah's eyes widened. The dancers weren't just protecting their territory. They were offering cooperation. Their quantum nature gave them an understanding of spatial mechanics that even humanity's advanced science couldn't match. They could see possibilities that neither humans nor the hegemony had imagined. "The hegemony is broadcasting on all frequencies," Marcus announced. "They're requesting assistance from any nearby civilizations with experience in sinological studies. Should we?" "No," Sarah interrupted firmly. "We remain hidden. This isn't about us anymore. This is about something much more important, the beginning of true cooperation between different forms of life in our galaxy." As if to emphasize her words, the lattice dancers' display reached a crescendo. Their combined movements created a ghostly image in space, a three-dimensional representation of a new kind of hyperspace corridor, one that would work with the quantum nature of space rather than trying to force it into submission. "Send word to all our facilities," Sarah ordered. "Tell them to prepare for a new phase in our mission. We're no longer just preserving life, we're helping it flourish." The galaxy was changing before their eyes, and humanity, hidden but ever watchful, would ensure that this change led not to destruction, but to a new kind of harmony. The age of separation was ending, but not in the way anyone had expected. News traveled fast in the galaxy, even faster when it challenged everything the established powers thought they knew. Within days of the lattice dancers' revelation, the Carina sector had become the focus of intense scientific interest. Ships from every major civilization arrived to study these beings that existed between conventional dimensions. In Earth's hidden command center, Sarah Chen watched the growing congregation of alien vessels with a mixture of satisfaction and concern. "How many species have arrived now?" she asked Marcus, who was monitoring the situation. 17 distinct civilizations," he replied, updating the holographic display. The hegemony is still maintaining primary contact, but they're sharing all their findings. It's unprecedented. They've never been this open with their research before. The display showed hundreds of ships clustered around the sector, their sensors drinking in every movement of the lattice dancers. But more importantly, it showed something else. Ships starting to detect similar phenomena in other sectors. The galaxy was beginning to see what humanity had known all along. That space was far from empty. Dr. Tanaka's latest report just came in, Marcus continued, bringing up a new set of data. The dancers aren't just suggesting modifications to the Unity network anymore. They're revealing the existence of quantum pathways that have existed naturally for billions of years, paths that would make artificial hyperspace corridors almost obsolete. Sarah studied the new information with intense interest. The dancers were showing the galaxy a completely different way of viewing space travel, one that worked with the natural fabric of the universe, instead of trying to force it into artificial channels. But that wasn't what caught her attention most. "Look at these patterns," she said, highlighting a section of the data. "The dancers aren't just sharing information about travel routes. They're trying to tell everyone about the other species we protect." The crystalline beings have begun creating complex mathematical models in space, each one depicting different forms of life that existed beyond conventional perception. They were revealing the presence of the Vex, the memory clouds, and countless other species that humanity had worked so hard to protect. "Director," Marcus said hesitantly, "I think we may have miscalculated. We thought we were just preventing the destruction of these species, but we've initiated something much bigger. The galaxy is about to change fundamentally." Sarah nodded slowly. "And we need to change with it. Bring up the full network status." The hologram expanded to show all of Earth's hidden facilities and ships throughout the galaxy. For centuries, they had operated in secret, their technology carefully concealed behind a mask of primitive development. But now, as the beings they protected began to reveal themselves, that secrecy was becoming both more crucial and more difficult to maintain. The Hegemony Scientific Council is proposing a complete reorganization of their spatial development protocols, Marcus reported, reading from incoming data. They're talking about establishing conservation zones, research partnerships with these new life forms. Everything we've been doing in secret, they're planning to do openly. But they still don't understand everything, Sarah mused. The dancers can show them the what, but not the how. Not without revealing our role. She paused, considering the implications. What's the status of our other charges? Marcus pulled up another set of data. The memory clouds in the Perseus arm are showing increased activity. The stellar nurseries are pulsing with new patterns. It's like they're all waiting for their cue. Sarah felt a familiar weight settle onto her shoulders, the weight of responsibility, of knowing that humanity's next decisions would shape the galaxy's future. They had started this chain of events, but they couldn't control where it would lead. "Send word to all our facilities," she ordered. "Full alert status. As more species reveal themselves, we need to be ready. There will be those who see these revelations as opportunities for exploitation rather than cooperation." Even as she spoke, new alerts were appearing on the display. A group of independent prospectors had detected unusual energy signatures near one of the memory cloud sanctuaries. A corporate survey fleet was requesting permission to conduct resource assessments in sectors that humans knew contained developing quantum-sensitive species. "We're entering a new phase," Sarah continued. "We're no longer just preservers hiding in the shadows. We need to become guardians of transition." She turned to face her old friend. "Marcus, implement Protocol Omega." His eyes widened. Protocol Omega had been theoretical until now. A contingency plan for a scenario where the galaxy began to discover what humanity had been protecting. It would transform their entire operation from a preservation program into something far more complex. "All facilities acknowledge," he reported after sending the orders. "We're beginning the shift now." Throughout the galaxy, humanity's hidden ships and stations began to adapt. Some moved deeper into the shadows, preparing to protect species that weren't ready to be discovered. Others positioned themselves to quietly monitor and guide the upcoming interactions between conventional civilizations and the newly revealed life forms. The hegemony is organizing a galactic summit, Marcus announced. They're inviting representatives from every known civilization to discuss the implications of these discoveries. They're calling it the Convention of Universal Life. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. How ironic. They still don't realize that one of the most active civilizations in the galaxy is that primitive species from Earth that can barely reach their own moon. But her amusement was short-lived. A new alert flashed on the display. Unauthorized ships entering a sensitive sector, their energy signatures matching known artifact smugglers. The revelations were beginning to attract the wrong kind of attention. "Director," Marcus said quietly, "I think we're about to find out if we can protect these species from exploitation while still maintaining our cover." Sarah straightened her shoulders, her expression hardening with determination. "Then we better prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our secrecy. It's our ability to adapt." She turned to the tactical display. "Show me those smuggler ships. Let's remind them that even in an awakening galaxy, some guardians prefer to remain unseen." The real test was just beginning. As the galaxy awakened to the true diversity of life within it, humanity's role would become more critical than ever. They had started as preservers, evolved into revealers, and now they would become something else entirely, the hidden shepherds of a cosmic transformation. 1 year after the Lattice Dancer's revelation, Sarah Chen stood in Earth's hidden command center, watching a very different galaxy unfold before her. The holographic display showed not just the conventional space lanes and settled systems, but also the newly acknowledged quantum pathways, migration routes, and sanctuaries that had transformed galactic civilization's understanding of life itself. "Final report from the Universal Life Convention," Marcus announced, his voice carrying a note of satisfaction. "The galactic hegemony has officially ratified the Cosmic Preservation Accord. All member species have agreed to recognize and protect non-conventional life forms." Sarah nodded, but her attention was focused on a different set of data streams. Throughout the galaxy, humanity's hidden network continued its vigilant watch. While the convention celebrated its achievement, the real work continued in secret. "Show me the Karina incident report," she requested. The display shifted to reveal footage from 3 days earlier. The corporate mining fleet had attempted to establish operations near a newly discovered quantum life form, claiming ignorance of the new preservation laws. They had found their systems mysteriously malfunctioning, their sensors scrambled by natural phenomena that humanity had carefully orchestrated. 7th attempt this month, Marcus noted. "They're getting persistent. They're getting desperate," Sarah corrected. "The revelation of these new life forms has disrupted countless exploitation plans. Some will never accept that profit must yield to preservation." The past year had proven that while the galaxy could acknowledge new forms of life, protecting them required more than just laws and treaties. It required guardians willing to operate in the shadows, maintaining the delicate balance between revelation and preservation. "Update from Dr. Tanaka's team," Marcus said, bringing up new data. "The Lattice Dancers have begun teaching other species about quantum navigation. 3 civilizations have already abandoned their artificial hyperspace corridor projects in favor of natural quantum pathways." Sarah allowed herself a moment of pride. The dancers had exceeded all expectations, becoming not just proof of alternative life, but teachers of a better way to traverse the cosmos. Yet even this success brought new challenges. Status of Protocol Omega. Marcus expanded the display, showing the new configuration of Earth's hidden network. Phase 3 completed last week. We've successfully transitioned 40% of our facilities to deep cover operations. The rest maintain our visible preservation work through official channels. It had been humanity's most ambitious adaptation yet. As the galaxy awakened to new forms of life, Earth had split its operations. On the surface, they remained the primitive species that had enthusiastically joined the preservation efforts, sending their simple ships to learn from more advanced civilizations. Meanwhile, their true capabilities remained hidden, allowing them to intervene when official channels proved insufficient. Director Marcus said hesitantly, "The Council has been discussing the future. Some members believe we should consider revealing ourselves, now that the galaxy has embraced the importance of preservation." Sarah shook her head, turning to face her old friend. "Show me the Nexus nursery monitoring data." The display shifted to a distant sector where clouds of quantum energy pulsed with emerging consciousness. The Nexus entities were so different from conventional life that even the new preservation laws couldn't adequately protect them. Only humanity's centuries of experience could recognize the crucial stages of their development. "We didn't become guardians for recognition," Sarah said softly. "We did it because we understood something fundamental about life. It doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes the most extraordinary forms of existence require silence and shadow to flourish." As if to emphasize her point, new alerts appeared on the display. The memory clouds were beginning their century-long transformation cycle. In another sector, the Vex were teaching younger species their mathematical migration patterns. Throughout the galaxy, life was flourishing in ways that defied conventional understanding. Besides, Sarah continued with a slight smile, "Our role has evolved. We're no longer just preservers of the unknown. We're the guardians of transition, the shepherds of understanding. The galaxy needs both its visible protectors and its hidden watchers." She moved to the central console, bringing up a new set of coordinates. "Speaking of which, the quantum disturbance in Sector 47 needs our attention. Prepare a stealth team." Marcus nodded, but paused before leaving. "It's remarkable, isn't it? We spent centuries hiding these wonders from the galaxy, and now we're hiding ourselves to help the galaxy protect them." "That's humanity's greatest strength," Sarah replied. "Not our technology, not our secrecy, but our ability to adapt our role to serve life's best interests." She gestured to the display showing the myriad forms of life flourishing across the cosmos. "This is our legacy, not as conquerors or even as discoverers, but as guardians who understood that sometimes the most powerful position is the one that goes unseen." Throughout the command center, alerts continued to flow in. Some showed official preservation vessels proudly patrolling their assigned sectors. Others tracked hidden threats that would require humanity's subtle intervention. In the distance, the lattice dancers continued their cosmic ballet, teaching the galaxy about the quantum paths that had always existed between the stars. Earth's secret would remain safe, not because of deception, but because humanity had found its true purpose. In a galaxy awakening to the infinite varieties of life, they had become something unique, the invisible hand guiding that awakening, the silent guardians ensuring that every form of existence had its chance to flourish. As Sarah watched her people work, coordinating their efforts across the cosmos, she understood that this was humanity's real achievement. They had transcended the need for recognition, finding purpose in the quiet satisfaction of nurturing life in all its forms. In choosing to remain hidden, they had discovered their greatest strength, the power to shape the galaxy's future while letting others claim the glory of its transformation. "Continue monitoring all sectors," she ordered, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of preservation and the promise of centuries to come. "The galaxy is changing, but our mission remains the same. We are humanity, the unseen guardians, and our work is far from over." In the vast expanse of space, countless forms of life continued their ancient dances, protected by laws they would never know and watched over by guardians they would never see. And in their hidden facilities, humanity continued their own dance, the delicate balance between revelation and secrecy, between progress and preservation, between the seen and unseen forces that shaped the cosmos itself.